Thank you for joining me today for our session titled Student-Professor Interactions During the Pivot to Remote Instruction. I am Andrea Schwegler, an Associate Professor at Texas A&M University Central Texas, and I am presenting on behalf of Ms. Fesui White, who was unable to join me for the recording today. I hope I can communicate not only her project results, but also her passion for this project. I had the pleasure of working with Ms. White during my undergraduate research methods course in spring 2020. I incorporate the high impact practice of undergraduate research in the course, and Ms. White chose to perform a research project on student faculty relationships. She noticed in her other psychology courses that teacher student interactions were highlighted as important for children and teens, but there was less research on their importance for adults in college, so she wanted to add to the existing literature. But as the spring 2020 semester unfolded, her research project was shaped by world events and it grew a life of its own beyond just the context of the course, as high impact practices usually do. To set the context, the COVID-19 pandemic was spreading across the globe, and as we watched it during the early weeks of the semester, we adapted her research project to include the sudden pivot to remote instruction that affected our institution and many others. The research project expanded to include the impact that the shift to remote instruction had on students in the context of their existing relationships with their faculty members. We were concerned that the sudden shift might create obstacles for some students in interactions with faculty, so we examined the transactional distance that students perceived given the shift in course delivery mode. Transactional distance describes the barriers students may encounter as they engage in online learning environments. The shift to remote instruction created a need for faculty members and students to interact in new ways if they were not already interacting online, which could have created barriers for them. Transactional distance is defined to include barriers in students' interactions with other students, their interactions with their teachers, their interactions with content, and their interactions with the technology used to participate in the class or the interface. In our research, Ms. White chose to focus on student-professor relationships, and we assessed students' interactions with the interface to determine if students had the tools they needed to learn effectively from their homes. Prior research illustrates the importance of student-professor relationships because they most strongly predict students' sense of learning, their progress, and their satisfaction compared to other types of interactions, such as with content or classmates. We measured both the positivity and negativity of student-professor relationships because these constructs have been shown to account for unique variance in student outcomes. For the project, Ms. White hypothesized that students' perceptions of transactional distance would increase with the shift to remote instruction, especially for students in on-campus courses who experience the most change in their course delivery mode. She expected fewer differences for students' reports in blended and online courses who already interacted with their professors at least to some extent online. True to her original ideas, she also examined the relationship between transactional distance and students' existing relationships with professors established at the beginning of the semester. Regarding the timeline for the study, spring semester began on January 13th, 2020. Courses progressed as originally scheduled through spring break in March, and then courses were canceled the week after spring break to provide faculty members some time to put their materials online. Courses resumed on March 23rd, and we began data collection immediately because we were already a week behind schedule for the data collection in the research methods course. And because this project grew a life of its own beyond just a course requirement, we continued data collection even after Ms. White's graduation into the summer. Then we started our data analysis. We recruited students who were enrolled in 16-week courses, and we received a fairly even distribution of participants from on-campus, blended, and online courses with a total of 84 participants. They provided their course delivery mode after the shift to remote instruction, and 3 remained enrolled in on-campus courses. 5 reported they were still enrolled in blended courses, and 73 were now enrolled in online courses. The 3 who did not interact with their professors online were removed from the analysis. Participants ranged in age from 18 to 65, which is typical for our non-traditional student body. Participants provided information regarding their demographics and their academic experiences, such as experience with online courses, their relationship with their professor, rated on a 0, not at all, to 4, a tremendous amount scale for each quality. They also rated transactional distance both before and after the pivot to online instruction using Zhang's original scale, and the ratings were on a 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree scale. And then they rated concerns after the pivot with their interface with the technology for the course. The research was IRB approved as an exempt project. It was hosted online, and recruitment emails were sent to the entire student body by the Dean of Student Affairs. The study results revealed that students reported high levels of positivity and low levels of negativity in their relationships with professors. Students reported low levels of transactional distance, both before and after the shift to remote instruction, though the ratings did increase after the pivot. We examined the correlations among variables, and we found that students' positive relationships with professors were related to low levels of transactional distance, both before and after the pivot to remote instruction. Positivity in relationships was inversely related to the level of negativity in their relationships with professors, as would be expected. Higher levels of negativity were associated with higher ratings of transactional distance, both before and after the pivot to remote instruction. And unexpectedly, more experience taking online courses was associated with higher negativity in student professor relationships. For our primary analysis, a 3 mode, on campus blended online, by 2 before and after the pivot to remote instruction, mixed model analysis of variance was performed on students' ratings of their transactional distance with their professors. Time was statistically significant, which indicated that students' ratings of transactional distance were somewhat higher after the pivot to remote instruction than before. The interaction between initial delivery mode and distance was not significant. Students noted slight increases in transactional distance with their professors, regardless of initial delivery mode after the pivot to remote instruction. Regarding students' interactions with the course interface, overall, students reported little difficulty learning and using course technology, and they indicated that they did have adequate access to the resources that they needed for class. Students' ratings regarding an efficient system for exchanging materials differed significantly based on initial course delivery mode. Students in online courses reported higher ratings than students in on-campus courses on this item. The students in blended courses did not differ from either on-campus or online students initially. In addition, students reported moderate agreement that taking the course online did not inhibit their class participation, and students reported slight disagreement that they had little difficulty paying attention to the instructor online. So these issues may pose challenges for some online learners. In sum, students' ratings in online courses did not differ from those in on-campus courses, and these shifts in ratings to increase transactional distance may be related to broader cultural changes that were occurring on many fronts beyond just changes in the course delivery itself. But with an increased reliance on online delivery, faculty members need to be sensitive to issues related to their interactions with students and take measures to reduce transactional distance and other challenges that students may perceive in their courses. We know from previous research that student-instructor interaction is important for student outcomes, and it predicts course grades. Student success may be threatened by increases in transactional distance if instruction proceeds without explicit attention to creating opportunities for interaction. So instruction delivered through online technologies needs to be intentionally designed to allow for interactions that best facilitate learning and reduce obstacles that students may perceive. We have included our references if you would like additional information. And if you have questions about the presentation, please reach out to either me or Ms. White at our email addresses here. Thank you so much for attending.